Okay, so the second part of task 2 is more digital experimentation. So after you've learned how to create your own brushes using the Define Brush preset, and you've experimented with deleting textures from shapes and typography, you are going to move on to looking at other Ray Gun and David Carson inspired designs and visually responding. So on this other panel here, this is a front cover from Ray Gun magazine, actually at the time when Chris Ashworth was leading editor. And I looked at this image here and thought, well, it looks quite similar to the threshold adjustment layer. So I've brought in an image of David Carson. And with this image, I go onto layers. So here's the image here, it's not been rasterized. If I rasterize it, so you can bring in any image, it could be a photograph of yourself, it could be a photograph that you found, although if you're aiming for higher grades, level 7, 8 and 9, you should be using your own photography as much as possible. So if I rasterize this layer, and then I go onto the adjustments panel, so this is in different places, you can go on to image adjustments, and it brings up all the adjustments here, and we're going to use threshold. It's also in your adjustments panel, this half circle with black and white, and it's also in your layers panel down here. So there's 3 different places you can access the same adjustment layer. So I'm just going to click it on here and choose threshold. So that's changing everything, all the layers, but don't worry about that for now. I can change the threshold level, so the further to the right becomes darker, further to the left you lose most of the image. So you can choose visually what style you're after. I'm going to go with that. Now that threshold layer is impacting everything below this. I just want it to impact this layer, the D Carson layer. I'm going to shift click both layers, right click and merge layers or merge visible. As you can see, it's not affected this image anymore, just this one. Next stage is to use the background eraser tool, because currently this image has a white solid area and I want it to look more like this example. So follow the video on how to use the background eraser tool. It's really simple. You use the background eraser tool here and a bright colored background to delete the background. Once you've deleted the background, you'll have an image that looks like this, where there is no background, no white. So any color that I put behind it can come through, like this example. And what I'm now going to do is I'm going to actually delete into the image. So as you can see on this example, there are textures coming through the face, there's other textures cutting through. So just like you deleted using the Define Brush preset on typography, you can do this on imagery as well, as long as the image is rasterized. So I'm just going to show you what I did here. So I've incorporated textures, textures cutting into the photography, and textures in type. So I'm going to take my image, I'm going to duplicate it, clicking Alt and left click and drag. I'm going to quickly flip this, so edit, transform, flip vertically. Maybe I'm going to go this way this time. Okay, now I'm going to use my brush, and on my brush panel I've got all my different brushes that I've made. So here's my splatter brush that I made earlier. Splatter example, let's use that. And I'm going to paint underneath this layer. So let's go with a new layer underneath. I'll choose a color. Just going to choose this random color for now. Increase my brush. So now I've got this texture coming through behind it. Okay, that's fine. And now I'm going to work actually on the image, this upside down image, using the eraser tool, choosing my brush. So you can see these are all the brushes that I've made, texture brushes. So let's use a different brush. I'm going to use this one. Grunge 3 brush. I'm going to change the scale of it. If I want it 100%, so it will delete straight away, so that's deleted straight into that image, like that. Now I'm going to put some type on top. It doesn't matter what color it is, although you can experiment here. You can choose your font, you can use different letter forms, they don't have to all be from the same font, they don't have to be typed this way, you can play around with the spacing in between, the kerning and the tracking. I'm going to rasterize this. I'm actually going to chop part of it with the marquee selection tool. I'm going to cut this bit off, use the move tool. Now I could cut and paste this on a new layer, so I can move this on its own, but I'm going to scale this up. Then press enter, and now this can all move together. Deselect the marching ants, Command D, and now this type moves together. And with it there, it's rasterized. I'm going to use the eraser tool, and use a different texture. Use this texture here, and I'm going to cut through parts of that type. So now when I zoom in, you can see I've created texture through that type. So I'm visually responding to designs by David Carson. You can create lots and lots of different slides experimenting with this, using different textures, type. You can make a whole design. I really want you to experiment with this process and then screenshot them, put them on the Google Slides, and also file, save as, and make sure you save this as a Photoshop PDF and upload these to your drive under Project 4 folder Grunge and share that folder with me.